Minnesota, the critical Game 4. Can Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Thunder bounce back after an absolute no-show? The answer is yes. Markieff, SGA just doing it all in that first quarter.
Yeah, SGA came out wanting to win Game 4. He wanted to prove the point that OKC, like I've been saying, is the best team remaining in the playoffs.
He's doing it inside, doing it outside. Thunder a 7-point lead after one, and then it's more SGA in the second quarter. He had 21 first-half points. Thunder up by 8 at the half. Anthony Edwards, quiet night. We're going to get into it. This is the only three he would make on the night. That one about midway through the fourth. Timberwolves within 6. Then it's Dante DiVincenzo. He had 21. Here come the Timberwolves. They're down by just 3. But every time, Marcus, there was a question, SGA had an answer.
Man, SGA started from the beginning. This is why you come out aggressive. So now in the fourth quarter, you have your rhythm. You can get to your shots. And he delivered, man. SGA started this game fast.
40 points for SGA. It's a 5-point lead. Then how does he make this pass? I need to show it to you again. Finding Jalen Williams. Look at this. Down on the ground between the legs.
And he didn't walk. He had his pivot foot down.
That's a great job. Jalen Williams would score 34, by the way. Here we go. 30 seconds left. Timberwolves down by 5. Edwards no good. Edwards gets it back. Jaden McDaniels in the corner. Yes, it's a 2-point game. 3.5 seconds left. Timberwolves down by 3. Edwards at the line. He would make the first. He needs to miss the second on purpose. Again, 3.5 seconds left. Where are we going to go? We got to fight for the ball. We're going to throw it away, but hold everything. A fan's going to catch it. And look at the time on the clock. When the fan catches the ball, there is still time remaining. So the T-Wolves have a last opportunity, but that doesn't go anywhere. Julius Randle throws it up. The Thunder come away with it, and OKC hangs on for the critical Game 4 win, 128-126. And as I opened the show with these words, it was a tale of two stars. SGA, 40 points, a near triple-double, led or co-led both teams in points and rebounds and assists, while the Ant-Man had just 16, his second fewest in a game this postseason, his fewest in a loss. Here he was after the game.
I don't look at it like I struggled or he struggled. They had a good game plan, making us get off the ball. Especially for me, man, they was super in the gaps. I made the right play all night, so I don't really look at it like I struggled. I didn't get enough shots to say I struggled, so that might be how you guys look at it. But, yeah, I didn't struggle at all. It's just I made the right play.
Well, let me read you the numbers. Numbers don't always tell the whole story, but this is what they say. Anthony Edwards last night with his team at home and the season to some degree on the line, he took 13 shots, 5 of 13, 1 of 7 from 3, 6 assists, 5 turnovers, a total of 16 points. So there is going to be criticism today. I will get Windy in a moment, but let me say, Markieff, is the criticism of Ant Edwards today legitimate?
I think so. Well, I know so. Coming out the way he came out in the first half in the Western Conference Finals game, a must-win game, that's unacceptable. 2 shots in the first half. One came with 34 seconds left in the first quarter. The second shot, the second made basket didn't come until 10 minutes left in the third quarter. That's unacceptable, especially when you look at how SGA came out. Exactly, and to piggyback off that, it's a rhythm thing, Greeny. Like, it's a rhythm thing. It's not always about misses or makes. It's a rhythm thing. It's getting them up, filling the ball, seeing what spots you can get to. Even if you got the raise over 2 guys, you should do that. So in the fourth quarter, going into the second half, you have that rhythm. You have that balance on the floor.
It's well put. So, Windman, you were there in the building. You know what the headlines are going to be today. Ant-Man, a no-show with his team's season on the line, or for the most part, it certainly felt that way. What did you see?
I don't think that's a fair way to look at this game. The Wolves scored 126 points. They shot 51% as a team. They shot 43% on three-pointers. Offensively, they were terrific. It was absolutely a winning performance offensively. Ant was doing what the Wolves had educated him to do. When he gets into a double team, they want him to move the ball. He was double teamed on 100% of his drives. Every time he took the ball in, they doubled him. The ball moved. The reason the Wolves lost the game was they turned the ball over 22 times. And if you want to say that he had 5 of them, and by the way, Julius Randle had 5, and say that he struggled with that, absolutely. 22 turnovers, 19 offensive rebounds. At one point in this game, Greeny, the Thunder had 23 more shots. Now, I know that that's not the exciting stat, that it's easier to point to Ant's 16 points. I'm going to point out in the last round, Jokic had a game where he had 14 shots, but the Nuggets won. Nobody was complaining after that. It was definitely not a good game by Ant, but definitely does not deserve blame for playing correct offensive basketball.
Julius Randle last night also just a non-factor, 1 of 7, 0 of 3 from 3, a final total of 5 points for him. To Wendy's point, the bench scoring, they got monster numbers, Minnesota did, off their bench. Dante DiVincenzo had 21. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 23. They got 64 points off their bench. So the offense wasn't necessarily the problem. I guess the question is now, with the Timberwolves losing this game at home, however much of the blame Ant Edwards is going to take for it, does this thing feel like it is all over but the crying here? Do you see any way Minnesota goes and finds a way to steal a win on the road in Game 5?
I don't, because when you look at Game 1 and Game 2, the Thunder controlled both of those games. Going into OKC, excuse me, and winning a Game 5 on the road in the Western Conference Finals is going to be extremely hard, especially with the way that SGA and Jalen played last game. Winning on the road anyway in the Western Conference Finals is extremely hard, and they're up for it. I don't know if they're up for the task. Initially, I had OKC in 5, and I'm sticking with that.
It feels like it might be headed that way. And by the way, we might have to start getting used to that. I was going through all of the post-game sound bites and things like that early this morning, and something that SGA said afterwards, I can already see Windy shaking his head because he knows, or nodding his head because he knows where I'm going. SGA said made a really interesting statement about this team, where they are and where they could go. This was SGA on being sort of the senior statesman of the Thunder.
We still have so much more room to grow, which is the scary part. Like, I'm 26, which seems old compared to the other two. But yeah, they're 23 and 24. They haven't even hit close to their prime yet. Like, both of them are just out there playing off a feel and their talent. And, like, I'm excited for the future.
So let's make sure it's clear what he's saying. He is 26 years old. Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren are 24 and 23. Last night, the big three combined for 95 points. There was someone, I forget who it was, it was me, who did an essay on TV last week saying that the era of super teams in the NBA is over. The only way that you can create a super team now is to home grow one. Maybe organically, the Thunder might just have that. They are so young. Those three guys are so good. Could we be seeing the beginning of something dynastic here with this OKC team?
Greeny, you said an important part in that, homegrown, right? The last dynasty, the last team that was really good, that was controlling the league, the Golden State Warriors. Drafted Steph Curry, drafted Draymond Green, drafted Klay Thompson.
Yes.
Homegrown, the system fit, right? The thing I see about OKC, that I love, and I talked about this about teams, their system, they have a really good system that benefits all three of their big three, right? Like Chet Holmgren can spread the floor, Jalen Williams can play in his mid-range, SGA is the catalyst, like he's the captain. I'm bought into the system and how these guys are bought into it, and that's what I feel like makes them a budding dynasty.
Yeah, Windy, I mean, the question on the screen, are the Thunder a super team in the making? I know they still have to win 5 more games to win this championship, but when you consider the age of these guys, what do you think?
The reason people would say that they didn't is because they didn't believe that Jalen Williams was a good enough number 2 and that Chet Holmgren was a good enough number 3. Well, I present you this Western Conference Finals. Jalen Williams was absolutely brilliant in this game, arguably the best performance of his career. Career high in the playoffs, 34 points, made big shot after big shot. Chet Holmgren, 21 points, some big defensive plays, including a block near the end of the game that was absolutely a jaw-dropping play. It's not a coronation yet, but this big three looks so impressive, and they're so poised to keep them together and add to them in the years in the future.
Western Conference Finals. The Knicks have so many 20-point comebacks this postseason, we can do an entire feature on it. The first one came Game 1 of their series against the Celtics. It was Boston's first loss in a playoff game with a 20-point lead in the play-by-play era. Jalen Brunson had 20 of his 29 in the second half. You figured, well, that'll never happen again. And then it happened again exactly 2 days later in Game 2. The Celtics are up by 20. They lost the game. The Knicks did not lead until there was a minute 59 left in the fourth quarter. They outscored the Celtics 23-6 in the final 8.5 minutes. And then it happened again the other night. The Knicks, for all intents and purposes, had their seasons on the line in Game 3 against the Pacers. They had lost 9 straight playoff games at Indy. They were down by 20 again, and by now, you know the rest. The comeback third time this postseason, all of them on the road, and that sets up the critical showdown in Game 4 tonight, the kind of game that feels like it will decide the series, right? It will decide whether the Knicks are going to turn this into a 7-game series or Indy is going to close it quickly. And there's a huge storyline. Aaron Nesmith, an ailing ankle. We're not quite sure how bad it is. We turn to Brian Windhorst for that. What, if anything, do we know about Nesmith and his ankle?
He is listed as questionable, Greeny. Rick Carlisle says he'll be a game-time decision. Considering this is the Eastern Conference Finals, you would be surprised if he doesn't play. I think it's more of a question of how much mobility does he have. He is a high-energy, high-speed player, the primary defender on Jalen Brunson. It will be the big thing to watch at the start of this game.
All right, so you made it very clear in our call this morning, Markieff, that this is the conference finals. He's going to play. If he can walk, he's going to play.
For sure.
But let's live in a world where his condition, he just is hampered to whatever degree. He has made life miserable for Jalen Brunson in this series. So if he's not at his best, how does it affect tonight's game?
When you say make life miserable, Jalen Brunson has still have great games.
Yes.
No, Aaron Nesmith have did a great job of just being a pest and being on them. But they had other guys. I mean, quite frankly, nobody's going to stop Jalen Brunson from scoring, but the energy that Nesmith brings offensively and defensively is the key to this game.
Yeah, he won Game 1 basically by himself with all those threes, and then the rest of that. How much of a factor? Marcus, I'm trying to get a sense. If Nesmith, A, doesn't play, or B, is obviously not at his best, how much of a factor, how does that affect the game tonight?
I think it definitely has an impact, but Nembhard actually does a great job on Jalen Brunson as well. I think that they have other guys. I think they were scheming a little bit differently, but he definitely has been playing well. He has a lot of length. He's been guarding Jalen Brunson, but let's be frank, none of them guys can really guard him, right? They can be a body, they can be a pest, but it will definitely have impact. The best thing about the Pacers that they go on playing a lot of players and playing deep. So I figured they'd be able to maybe plug somebody in that position and play with
This is where their depth becomes perhaps an advantage. So the Knicks got the huge game from Karl-Anthony Towns in Game 3. Jalen Brunson obviously has been their rock. Who do you have your eye on tonight? If the Knicks are going to even up this series, who has to get it done for them tonight, first and foremost?
Again, Cat has to be that guy he was last game, and it can't start in the fourth quarter because it might be too late. They went down 20, and luckily the bench came in, played some good defense. Miles McBride made some good shots, but it can't wait. It has to be Cat from early, from jump ball. It has to be Jalen from jump ball. They have to attack the game. But not only that, this series has been not how you start, it's how you finish. So whichever one of those guys play well, the team has to finish the game for them to be able to win this game.
It's a bizarre thing. We can put the numbers up on the screen for you here. I don't really know how to interpret these. The Knicks are very good when Karl-Anthony Towns is playing, and they're very good when Jalen Brunson is playing, and they're very bad when they're both playing. Those are their plus-minus numbers in these Eastern Conference Finals. Again, plus 15 with just Cat, plus 10 with just Brunson, minus 20 when the two of them are together. Does that help me make sense of this, Marcus? Does it make any sense? What does that mean?
I mean, it's just one of those analytical things, right? But we can't say that the team are better when they're both off the court or one is on the court, right? They're a great tandem.
I can explain it.
I think they just haven't figured out of like how to actually make it into a play.
Windman, go.
Defensively, the Pacers isolate and attack Towns and Brunson. It has been their game plan throughout this series, and will continue to be their game plan. And while, during the regular season, Brunson and Towns are so awesome offensively, it can overwhelm it. In a playoff setting, when the game slows down, the Pacers are able to victimize them on the defensive end. And so what's basically happened is when one of them defends and the other one's on the bench, they are a much more dynamic defensive team. The Pacers flat out came out and said this. The thing that what they weren't ready for was that they played better defensive lineups. The other thing is they discovered in this Game 3 that when they isolate Cat, they found a weak spot in the Pacers roster. You talk about depth. A weak spot in the Pacers roster is their backup center position. They lost 2 backup centers to Achilles tears this year, and when they isolate Miles Turner, their starter with Cat, he victimized him. So I would expect tonight to see more of those guys playing by themselves out there, what's called the stagger, bigger stagger numbers for those two.
All right,
which is true. Sorry.
Very quick, go.
Which is true. But the Indiana Pacers aren't an ISO-based team. Let's be clear. Like, if they're trying to do that, They should have lost. They should be 2-1 right now. Like
Right.
what they're doing is it's not technically saying it's working because they don't have ISO-based team. They play fast, they play in transition, and they move the ball. So I'm not sure if that's actually the game plan.